there are some stories that are just so compelling, you can't help but to believe them. For example, this 2-year-old fallen into the family pool and it drowned. Her family, her parents, pulled her out of the pool, called 911. The paramedics show up to the house, begin CPR, and also started performing other medical procedures to try to revive her. They could not. They rushed the little girl to the emergency room, where there was an ER doctor who happened to be atheist, which for him doesn't matter. This is a patient, and the algorithms are the same: airway, breathing, circulation. They bring the patient in, and they begin to continue the life-saving procedures. But what seems to be to no avail, because the poor 2-year-old little girl was still unresponsive. No heartbeat, no breathing. And they continued to work for 45 minutes. Again, having been a paramedic for 5 years myself, I know what that looks like. And 45 minutes is a long time to work on a patient. But this doctor was desperate. And at the very last second, just before the doctor calls for the time of death, the little girl revives and she recovers fully. The doctor calls the family a few days later to check on the little girl and ask if they didn't mind bringing her in, just so that he can check on her personally to make sure she was fully recovered. They agreed to bring the 2-year-old in, and the first question the doctor asked was, "Do you remember what happened to you?" Now remember, the girl is unconscious 99% of the time. Her parents are in a waiting room waiting. And the little girl said, "Yes, do you mean when I was with Jesus?" The doctor assumed that that was the story, of course, the parents gave her so that she could grasp what had happened. And so he acquiesced and said, "Of course, yes, when you were with Jesus." Of course, not believing that. And she began to describe to the doctor in great detail everything that began to happen in the room. So much so that he was shocked, because several of her explanation, it was impossible for her to know, because she was unconscious. She began to describe to him where he was standing, where the nurses were standing, and what they were saying and doing. She could see her body. She said while they were frantic and performing all of these procedures, she was standing there holding Jesus' hand. Jesus tells her that she had to return. And she was happy to hear that, because while she wanted to go with Jesus, she did see her mommy crying somehow in another room. Again, there are some stories that are so compelling, they're undeniable, and they draw you into belief. What stories do you have, and can you recall, that help you to keep your greatest beliefs alive? That's one of mine.